Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remember Who You Are podcast, where we discuss powerful and transformative plant medicine experiences. I'm your host, Ugur Eber. I run Mexisoul, a plant medicine retreat center in Mexico, and I'm here today with my guest, Krista Wisman. Krista is known for her immense empathy, so much so that she has 12 kids and she lives in a shoe. Okay, wait. So Krista actually told me to write the introduction myself, and so uh, I will give her a proper introduction. So Krista, after a long career inspiring young minds as a high school principal with a background in biological engineering, she embarked on a deeply personal journey of self-discovery and transformation. Her path led her to hold space for others, and she brings a unique blend of warmth, leadership, and compassion. She's one of the most caring and loving people that I know, and now she is supporting us as the ceremony support and also as a medicine woman for our retreats. She just has a really compassionate and empathetic and motherly presence, and it really guides and helps guest experiences. Is there anything that you would like to add to that, Krista?
No, thank you. Thank you. That was pretty nice, especially the 12 kids in the shoe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought of that like in the middle of the night of the way to introduce you.
Yeah. Well, I can see myself like that too. So that's good. No,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I think it's nice. Thank you. I feel
of
honored.
course. So the way we kind of operate with this podcast is we speak mainly about a transformative experience, or I think you have a few that you'd like to talk about. But basically, we go through, what life was like before that experience, what led you to have that experience, and then speaking about the experience itself, and then we talk about what shifted or what's different or what you've learned from that.
Okay, um, so before I started with all this plant medicine and this beautiful world that I'm in now, so for many years, I had what most people would consider a successful life. Like you mentioned, I was a principal in a high school for 20 years, and before that, a teacher. Um, it was a very prestigious, from a school from a very prestigious institution in Mexico City. So, I had a stable career, a family, my kids. Everything looks good and perfect on the outside, but inside I was carrying a tremendous amount of stress. um, Stress mainly because of the responsibility of my job, but also in life, with my kids, with my husband, in general, until one point, and mainly because of my job, I had this like crisis. I had a lot of stress, but this was stronger. It wasn't really like an attack per se, very loud or anything. I just felt bad. I kind of felt dizzy, so I decided to go to the hospital and they checked my blood pressure. And I was there because of several specific situations that were there at the same time. That's what made me feel or come to this point.
Were
But
they
when I
from
got to the
stress?
from
Sorry, were they
stress. It
from
was from it
stress?
was from work. It was from work. Like we were starting a new year, a school year, and several teachers quit at the same time with the kids in school. Like parents and looking for a new teacher and training a new teacher right when school is starting. Like things that had to do with my job. Um, but of course, I had pressures. My kids, both of them, were in university, or beginning their university studies, so that was a lot of pressure also economically and keeping the job and having everything go work good. So when I went to the hospital, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and that really got me mad because I couldn't. I didn't like the idea that I had to take a pill every day for the rest of my life. And I'm not saying that everybody should do this, because it's I know what blood pressure means and all that. So, well, I kept like that for around 5 or 6 years until my kids finished their university studies, and that was when I really took the decision that I had to do. Life had to have something different from me. I had done, like I said, everything. I studied, I worked, I got married, I got kids, like everything checked, and then that was it. I felt that something was missing. I didn't want to continue. By that time, I was 55. I didn't want to continue living my life under so much stress. And of course, quitting my job was something that it was a difficult decision to take, but I decided to trust. I was very afraid, I have to admit, because I was giving up my whole life career, but I was looking for some peace in my life. Like, the main thing was I didn't want to keep taking pills forever. So, and not because my parents had the same illness, that the blood pressure thing. So that's when one day I just quit my job. I called a friend. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit then about how we met and what happened and how this fits into the story? So,
Yeah.
so I'll speak a little bit about just a quick about myself. So then, about 4.5 years ago, I was starting the retreats at the place called the Finca, but I hadn't started anything yet. And then you came to the Finca. So had you quit your job then yet or not?
I quit my job. That was in January. I quit my job, and my last day of work was in December, before Christmas
Okay.
vacation. So I had just quit my job. I called a friend that she does retreats in Guadalajara, and she had rented the space, the finca, for her yoga and meditation retreat. And that's where we met.
And that was, yes, and that was 2022.
So it's January 2022, exactly.
I remember when we met too, you looked like a principal.
I was. Well, yeah, I was a principal. And I say I was because it took me a while to get out of that role, even though I wasn't working anymore. But when I went there, I mean, I was still a principal.
Yeah, I always, when I first saw you, my memory of the first few times I saw you is like you always wore like jeans or a suit or like a, I guess, pantsuit. It wasn't very common that you wore a dress.
Yeah. Well, that was something we can talk about it after you share how we met, because that's part of the transformation. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So I'll talk about my part in it. So I had, the calling to come to Mexico, go to the finca, start the retreats, and then we hadn't started them yet. And then I was at the finca, and then I actually remember being there, and Marina, the owner, asked if anybody who was there. They said there was a retreat that focused on masculine and feminine dynamics, and that they needed men because there was too many women, and if you wanted to come join, you could do it for free. And I was like, okay, I don't know what even they're doing, but it was like it wasn't that hard to convince me. Because I mean, honestly, I was she kind of sold it as like, oh, there's a retreat on masculine and feminine dynamics, and there's single girls that need or supported that. So I was like, okay. And then I remember going into that group. It wasn't really what I thought. It was it was definitely on masculine and feminine dynamics, but it was more meditation, appreciation of the masculine and feminine, and then I think they put us together because you were one of the few people that was bilingual, because a lot of people didn't speak
Yeah,
Spanish.
they asked us that, to we were going to do group work, and the people that knew English, I invited us to work with you guys, that because it was you with other volunteers that didn't speak any Spanish, so I
Hmm.
ended up working with all of you guys.
And then this is my memory of it, but correct me if I'm wrong. So I had had a transformative experience with ayahuasca. I was in the process of starting the retreats. This was in January. The first retreat we ended up having was in March. But in this retreat, there was an activity, or for some reason, I can't remember why, but we had to hold hands. And then when I held your hand, I felt this surge of like energy go through my body that almost, I think it did make me like tear up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, she's going to be a part of this somehow. And I think I said, because there was the other two people that I knew. This is the first time I'd met you, and the other two people that I had already knew that were in our group. I'm like, she's gonna do plant medicine.
Yeah, that's how it happened. I don't know exactly what the activity was, but we needed to hold hands. We had been doing a lot of sharing and, like you said, like honoring our feminine and masculine side. So yeah, we were in a place where we had been looking inside and the issues with parents and things like that. And yes, exactly, when we held hands, you felt something like what you just said, and you did cried a little bit, and it was beautiful. I mean, I don't know why. I can't explain what happened. Now I know it's the energy. At that moment, I wasn't really aware. Uh, but this is when people ask me how did I come to medicines, to try plant medicines. It's different from most people that I've met. I wasn't looking for them. It was like as if medicine was looking for me.
Hmm.
And the moment you met me, we met. Well, it just you said it, and I was open to it. At that point in my life, I was open. I was gonna say yes to life. I was gonna do anything that I like to do. So, well, that's how it was. So after that retreat, we it was a weekend retreat, and I met Marina, the owner, and then on Sunday, as I was waiting for my friend to put everything in the car and clean up and everything, I talked to Marina and I said, "How can I come as a volunteer?" And she said, "Well, you can come." So that moment, she showed me the room I was going to stay, and I just had to go home, get some clothes, and I came back the next week for 2 weeks of offering myself as a volunteer. And that's when I tried the first time plant medicine. And you were there too. Marina offered a ceremony for the
It
for
was
the
just the staff and
volunteers.
the volunteers there, right?
It was only for volunteers, and staff, and so I had no idea what I was gonna do, but I assumed that if Marina was gonna be there, and for what I had talked to her and you, uh, and other volunteers that had been there, because that time when we met at the retreat, there were ceremonies, local ceremonies
Hmm.
taking place in the Oracle. So I was really intrigued, like what's this? I did like it, the music, the energy, I did like it. So when Marina invited us to participate, I said yes. And well, that experience for me was I didn't have any issue, like, or in my vocabulary I wasn't like I need to heal, I except for my blood pressure thing,
Hmm.
that, by the way, I ended up not taking more of the pills. I decided to stop taking my pills. This is why I say you don't have to do it without checking with your doctor, but that's what I did. I thought, if the stress is bringing this up to me, then if I get rid of the stress, I can get rid of the pill. So I stopped taking the pill, and so I wasn't really looking for the medicines. But the most surprising thing is that when I took the medicine, or what I remember the most is how reaffirming it was for me. Uh, you know, I knew that there had to be something different. And after that first experience, reminded me that, that I was right. And I was afraid to go into this medicine because I had all this guilt and all this pressure in my life. And I thought, medicine is going to kick my ass and it's going to be so hard. But because of what people had told me, but anyway, I said yes. And it was beautiful that medicine just held me and told me, you're doing good and you took a right decision, and life hasn't been easy, but you're here. So I just felt this immense gratitude for everything that I had done in my life. Because when I quit my job, I was like, I'm throwing away all I've done, you know. That was also that guilt by quitting the job, but in that moment it was like, you needed this and this is good, So it was so healing, even though I didn't think I was ill or broken, but it was so healing and gave me so much energy back. So yeah, that was a beautiful experience. I came back home a couple of weeks later, and I decided to move the city where we lived. We were living 3 hours away from a place from the coast where we have a nice home. So I decided to put that other house in Navajoa for rent and go to the beach house and do something different. And that was something that the energy and the confidence and the love that I felt in the ceremony gave me the strength to go that far. And well, but I did want it to do that. That was Satori, that first plant medicine that I tried. But I wanted to go back to do the ceremony.
So for those that
Like
don't
the
know, Satori is similar to ayahuasca. It's DMT based, but the DMT, rather than coming from the chacruna and ramala, comes from plants that are native to Mexico. I think the experience is a little bit less physical.
Yeah, definitely.
Had you had any experience with psychedelics before?
No, I only had tried cannabis. That's all. Never had any type of psychedelic experience ever.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the first one, and it was beautiful. But of course, I came back a couple of months later.
Yeah.
Uh, by the time I went back, you had already started the Mexisouls retreats, and I went to and the local ceremonies. The one I wanted to participate was a weekend before your retreat. So again, I called Marina. I asked if I could volunteer again. So I went for a couple of weeks. The first week I was there, that's when I tried medicine for the second time. This time, the first time, ayahuasca and other things, cambo, the other things that we offer. Um, and then I'm not sure why, but you needed help with the Finca needed help with the kitchen staff for the retreat. So I offered to stay um, and help you out with the kitchen, with the food, and well, I think we did a pretty good job. Um, it was easy for me in the sense that I only had to deal with 5 girls instead of 30 something teachers. So it was good. I got to meet a lot of people. It was beautiful experience for me. And then after that, I think you were asking Marina, encouraging her to hire me. So a couple of
Yeah.
months afterwards, I became the manager of the finca.
Yeah, I remember that because back then, I mean, this is 4 years ago, and it feels like it could be a different lifetime. But
Yeah.
back then, the finca was very, 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 very different than it is now.
Oh yeah.
Let's just say there wasn't a lot of structure.
And actually, that's how what Marina mentioned when she offered me the job, she said, I need to put some structure here, but not too strict, not like the institution that I was running before. It was like more organic way. So that was another challenge for me, and it was interesting to let go of the pattern of my structure as a principal, but the opportunity to continue to work and observe my patterns and observe my reactions and realize that many of the conflicts that I had back in my other school, it was also because of my way of being. I wanted everything perfect. I wanted, I wasn't that flexible. I
Hmm.
wanted, so all that work as a manager in the finca, as I was continuing to do plant medicine, were really what started to make an important change in me. Like I started to observe myself more, how I respond, how I, you know, respond to circumstances in life, um, and that was also part of a beautiful transformation in my life. Uh, and at that moment, I wasn't even living in my home because I went to live to the finca. So I ended up moving to the finca for a couple of years too.
Well, something that I can't remember that's just part of this story is I can't remember if I was directing the finca and wanted Marina to hire you to help support, or if it was before.
It was before you were working with Marina, but with the retreats. And I remember I accepted the offer for 2 months to see how it would go,
Right, two
if I
months.
liked it, or if you guys liked the way I worked. And then, so that was, I think, November, December. And then in January, when I came back, that's when you started directing the finca.
Well,
So
and
that
then
was
you
January
started,
23rd.
and then you started to get more and more and more and more experience with just medicine and being in ceremonies and supporting people.
The thing is that I liked so much the environment. How the ceremony, the flow of the ceremony. So I had to be there as part of my job. I had to be there, making sure that the OSHA was clean, that all the mattresses, everything was the setup, the setting was good. And then I would stay there. I would stay there and help the servers, and I would stay first for a little while, and every time I'd stay longer time because I like it so much. And I started to see how even some things that I would tell people, or the way I would touch them, or the way I would help support them during their experiences, it was huge on them. Like it meant a lot for them. And for me it was very hard to believe first that I could be a medicine woman, for example. Like people would say, you're a healer, and seeing you there, and when you the words that you shared, and it was like, how can I make this impact on people? I really didn't have that much self-confidence in me. But it was, how people continue to say all these things, and me feeling so good in those moments in ceremony, with medicine and without, because when I'm serving, I'm not necessarily taking medicine. I'm there supporting people. But the connection between the medicine, the people, the music, and everything, as I started to learn more about it, it became deeper in me.
When you definitely had a natural ability to support and hold space for people.
Well, I am a Cancer, so that talks a lot about the nurturing energy. Uh, yes, and that's something that I've always had. And with me being a teacher, it was also something that I could, from the parent side, they felt safe leaving the kids with us in school under my supervision. But also for the students, they could come and open up, and I was working with teenagers, so it's a challenging time of life, when you're becoming adults. So yeah, that energy has been useful for me in many things, but this was totally new. I mean, I didn't know I could do something like this. I didn't know I could ever experience something like this, being in the ceremonies, helping people when they're under their catharsis. laughing, crying, dancing with them, just feeling all one together. It's just such a beautiful and transformative experience.
Well, let's talk about your first ayahuasca. Let's jump a little bit back and talk about your first ayahuasca experience.
Okay, so my first ayahuasca was, this is when I came back in August. Um, and it was also, that wasn't as joyful as the first time I did medicine, the first time I took Satori, but it was still very beautiful and very loving. But there was moments that they were challenging. Like it took me to moments, to emotions in my childhood, specifically, that were very painful. And then she showed me some things that I still don't understand 100%, but it's in general, I can say that every experience I've had with ayahuasca, with bufo, with satori, even though I do have some work to do and that it can feel challenging, it's always full of love and care. Um, at the end, I always feel in such a beautiful space of presence, of, just being there with the divine. I cannot explain, and this has nothing to do with any religion. But some part of me was also always searching for a spiritual, like a which is the right God. Who should I pray? I was born in a Catholic family, not too Catholic, not too traditional, but I went to school, Catholic schools, and then I became a Christian when I was in college, in the first years of marriage, and I was all my life I looked for, you know, who was the right God? What is the name? How do I really pray to Him? And so for the years before all this happened, I kind of stepped back from any religion, just continue with like my own communication with God, and that was something that hit me so beautiful to be there sitting in this ceremony where there's no church, everybody going through their process, music playing and singing different type of music, and I'm sitting there like having this presence with divinity without any tag or any name. That was just broke all the patterns, and I was able to understand that I am part of God and God is part of me. So it's a different. I don't need to be in a place. I don't need to call Him in a specific name. Of course, I was brought up under the Christian uh, culture tradition. So every time I think of God, I do see Jesus, right? I see Jesus Christ. And actually, in my first Satori, one of the beings or the energies I felt was Jesus uh, next to me. So yeah, it has brought me much closer, or my relationship with God. It was like, yes, that's the God I used to pray when I was a little girl. That's the guy. That's the energy I felt. And then it didn't make sense as I grew up. So that was also a beautiful experience. I wasn't looking for a different job, a different life. I mean, a specific thing. Like I didn't want to get divorced and find another partner. I just knew life had something different for me, and this part, the spiritual part, just filled a space that just makes me trust more the universe. And I think my most important transformation is trusting, the ability that I have to trust. And I know that it took a lot of trust to quit my job. So it doesn't mean that I didn't trust before. I've seen God's hand in my life in many times, saving us, or I've always had a good life. But experiencing in this level of, no church, no pattern, no tradition, just there, being in the present moment, looking at people just dance and be so joyful, and also cry, and me being able to feel everyone with so much love and gratitude. I think that's closest I can get to being in heaven,
Hmm.
how it is explained, I guess. So that was beautiful, and it has, and it still is. Every ceremony, every time I do medicine, because like you say, now I am also facilitating medicine, particularly so far as psilocybin and DMT and Satori. But um, yeah, now when I am there, I know it's when I'm there holding space for people. I know that it's not me, it's God, it's this energy, this divine energy acting through me just because I say yes. But there's nothing really special in me or anything. It's just I said yes, I trust, and well, I'm happy doing this. I'm happy with what I'm doing with my life right now.
It is pretty fascinating what happens when we allow things.
Yeah.
So, which is more challenging to deal with, teenagers or people under medicine?
No, I think no, like teenagers definitely, definitely, yeah, yeah. People under medicine, it's a process, and it's only for a couple of hours. And like I said, there's this beautiful, loving connection, and I I I see myself when people are working, and even if they're having like catharsis, because we have people that run, walk a lot, and we have to be following them, which requires more energy from us. But just knowing that they're in their process makes it okay. And right now that you mention it, that was maybe the reason why I really enjoyed working with teenagers too. The fact that I knew that they were in process.
Hmm.
So everything they did, it's not like, I mean, they're not done. They're learning, and those things we do as teenagers, like the things that they used to do, and the problems that we have, disciplinary issues when I was in school. But yeah, I think this is mm, one of another reason, I guess, that I wanted to quit my job is that I felt that people, and that was probably my ego. I didn't know it back then, but I felt that people weren't, what I recognizing all the work that I was doing with their kids, and still had so many issues with, especially some parents, the parents from high school, because there were two schools. And so one of the things I said, I want to work in a place where my work is where people want my service, where I can be of service, and they can it's useful. So yeah, definitely here that happens. And now I know that those emotions, like needing validation and recognition, that's something I'm still working on. But that's not what moves me anymore. Definitely, just the knowing that I can be of support, that I can be of help, and not only with my presence there, but also like with this, sharing my experience.
Well, I
That
feel
it
like
could.
there's a tremendous amount of value in learning too from being observing and supporting other people through their processes. I mean, we say this during the retreats a lot, but seeing people in their journeys is has a healing element for everyone that's supporting them for sure.
Sure, for sure, totally. Um, yes, and learning, meeting so many people with so many different lives, and at the end we're all looking for the same thing. We are just humans learning, and that is witnessing everybody's process. It's such a privilege. And yes, we say it a lot, and I always say it when we share in the ceremonies. It's not a cliche. I mean, it's true. We learn. Definitely being in service, at service in ceremonies, is probably where I learn more, where I'm able to transform patterns and ideas, and change attitudes that I see in me, that I mirror myself when I'm in ceremony with somebody else.
Well, let's continue the transformation part of the stories. So I think you wanted to talk about.
About my trip to Peru, to the
Okay.
Amazons, because well, after all this happened, I had
This
the
is the one that we
opportunity
went
to.
on together.
Yes,
Okay.
and I don't remember. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I remember it was in
Time.
January because at my birthday it was during my birthday.
Yeah, I
So it had to have
remember.
been.
Well, that was a retreat that it was, I think, for a week or 10 days in the Amazon, and it was a silence retreat, and we dieted also with master plants. So that retreat, I was called, or I chose Bobinsana, which is a master plant. I don't know if I chose her or she chose me, but that's the plant I dieted with. By then, as I shared, I had already changed my life. I had, I was happier. I felt freer. I had left my old career, and now I'm managing this holistic center and working for Mexisoul. But I still noticed some patterns in me. Like I knew the information, I had learned about the chakras, about the energy, you know, many new beautiful things, but I could still feel like these patterns in me. So one of my main, or if not the main intention when I went to Peru was to gain a different understanding. Like I felt like, what does it help me to know so many things if I'm still responding the same way and being all stressed out if the ceremony is starting, if the food, if, like the same
Mhm.
patterns when I'm learning that life can be different. So that was like the main idea, or my main intention. So Peru wasn't about learning more for me. It was more about letting go of those patterns, of that old pain, or those voices in my mind, telling me that it's not enough, that I'm not good, that you have to do better, like all these insecurities. So it was a lot of work. We had two ayahuasca ceremonies. The first one was at the beginning of the week. So we dieted with the master plan. That one we had to take every day. In my case, it was 3 times a day, half an hour before each meal. I had to take half a glass of the plant. So by the last ceremony, when we were asked to go back to our rooms, it was around midnight. Well, we had danced and everything was good. So I thought it was done. And I felt really good. I didn't, at that point, I really didn't feel that I had worked that much, but the experience, the resting, the being in silence, that was good enough for me. My previous ceremony had been very nice, very loving as usual, nothing different, nothing stronger. And this one apparently had been the same until midnight. But when I went to my room from around 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning, my God. So Abuelita and Bobinsana just took control of me. And well, not control, but it started like all these memories and all this emotion to come back. I started in my womb, and then it went up into my chest, my heart, my throat. And it was so much energetic release. I didn't any perching, even though at some point I thought I was going to perch, but it was more like, like it. The memory came, the I could feel the pain or whatever I was going through, and it was time. And Abuelita is just next to me, and Bobinsana, like, let it go, let it go, let it go. Even situations came to my mind, like things when I was a kid, or things that I thought that I had already let go of in my life. Like I didn't feel I have any attachments or trauma or anything. It was, you know, things that I, at the moment, I forgave, or I understood, but the thing that I was still holding on to them, even
Could
though
you
in a.
explain a little bit more about how that felt, like in your body?
Well, the hardest part was when we reached this part of my head over here, like in the back of my head, because there were situations that like I couldn't see, like before other pains was. I remember once my dad, we had it was a very traumatic episode in my childhood that I couldn't understand a math equation, and my dad ended up slapping me, and nose coming out of my blood coming out of my nose, and it was like very dramatic. And then when she took me to that moment, I was like, yeah, but I understand that my dad asked for forgiveness, and it was good, but the pain and the insecurity was still there, so I had to let it go. But when it came to this part over here, there was this pain and pressure, but I couldn't remember what it was. And I remember asking her, like, what is this? How can I let it go if I can't see it? If I don't know what's going on. And then she would just say, this is something that you don't need to remember. It doesn't really even belong to you. So what I understand, it was maybe something from either past lives or some lineage thing that it wasn't on me that I had to let go, but that I was carrying. But it was painful in a physical level every time. Like when I started, I felt like pain in my stomach. And I'm like, okay, am I going to go to the bathroom? And then the memories started coming, and it was like, no, it wasn't physical. It was more energetical. And as it went, like the situations that are reminding me, I lost some babies when I was younger. So that I had that pain there too. Even though I had worked with that, I named my 3 babies in past activities and before this event. But there it was like, see them, recognize them, and let them go. Like it wasn't your fault. Let the guilt go. So it was like all deep situations that some I didn't even remember, and some I couldn't even know what they were. But it was like just telling my body to let it go. And I remember when we were in this part, screaming out loud, like, you have to go, whatever it is, you have to go. But it was like it had been there for I don't know how long. I couldn't even remember it. And yeah, after that, that was a beautiful night. Well, it ended up at 7 a.m. That morning we closed the diet. And I felt so light. Even though I hadn't slept all night, I just felt so happy and so light. And I noticed something different in me, but not immediately. I started noticing as I came back to the finca. We had a ceremony just a few weeks after that. And I had this incredible experience with a beautiful woman where I could see even my hands becoming energy and helping her pull out this pain in her body in a way that I couldn't even recognize myself. So that's when I started to see like something shifted here. And I started to trust the medicine much more. Now I have issues like when people are taking other pharmaceuticals and things like that. It's like I trust the medicine, I know we can do it, but I know I have to be very careful. But I trust the medicine so much that and now that I'm saying it, it's just beautiful how when we are able to trust, really trust, and get the fear, because I think. Like the example of my pressure pills, I was afraid I was going to die if I didn't take them. So it was like a life and death decision, because that's what the doctors had told me. If you stop taking the medicine, you might have a heart attack at some point, a stroke. So that trusting that you are going to be okay, that your body knows how to respond, that if you listen to your body, if you listen to your higher self and do what is, take care of ourselves, give ourselves like the self-value, which is something that I struggled a lot. Even the word it's you deserve, when people would say, oh, take it, you deserve it. For me, it was like, no, you don't deserve things. You have to work to earn things.
Yeah.
And that is something total that has shifted completely my life. Like now I know I deserve to be happy, to feel good, to trust, to trust myself, my body. So that's when I started to really have felt that there was a transformation in my understanding, because that's what I wanted, like to be able to understand things in a different way. So when a situation comes, I don't react. I can respond. Like I can see it, observe it, analyze it, and don't feel attacked, because that's something that, like, if something happens, I feel either I was attacked, or they're blaming me, or I did it wrong. It's my fault. I'm not good enough. Like those are some emotions that come. And you know, it's not that I don't have those thoughts anymore. The difference now is that I identify them.
Awareness.
And I'm aware. Exactly, I'm aware, and then I can say, no. And even if sometimes I do react instead of responding, because I'm human, and I'm learning that too, to accept that in me too. um, I okay, I even though I didn't do what I think or I thought I should have done good, I still am able to recognize it, to see it, and say, okay, it's okay. Next time be more aware and treat myself with kindness, which is something that I genuinely, with from my heart, I tell people in the retreats, like, trust your inner wisdom. Trust your inner wisdom, because from my experience, every time I've trusted and I said yes and I do it, it comes out good. You know, treat yourself with kindness, because I was usually very hard on myself. So that's also one of the phrases that I love, and I continuously say that. Um, so yeah, and no rush. I wanted, when I quit my job, I wanted things to change immediately. So this is why I quit my job. Right now, I don't regret quitting my job at all, but I understand that maybe if I had this peace in my mind, and that if I was in this space, I would be able to work in that same position, in that same institution, without being so stressed. You know?
Right.
It's not that I regret. I don't want to go back there. But I know that maybe if I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have to retired. I mean, to quit. So, I mean, I don't miss it at all. But yeah, it's a something I understand now.
Well, we're kind of already talking about it, but I think the third part is to discuss what has transformed, which we're kind of already going into that naturally. Uh, but what are some specific things that has transformed besides your entire wardrobe?
Okay, well, yeah. One of the things, and then I started, this is when we went to this retreat where I met you, where it was more about recognizing the feminine and the masculine side of you. That I started to realize that I had blocked my feminine side completely. So I grew up in a Mexican family, and I know that the machismo, it's not only for Mexico, but I did grow up with an older father. So for him, all he wanted me was to learn how to cook and be a good wife,
Yeah.
you know. So, and the women and the girls that I was involved with, that I met when I was in my younger years and my teenage years in school, for me, women were like so vain, you know. Um, so instead of doing something for women, I kind of got mad at women, and women were like kind of useless. You can only be only a housewife. Now I know that being a housewife, it's a big deal, but um, so I this is why I even studied an engineer career. When I was in school, there weren't that many women studying the
No.
career I was studying, because there was more like a men's career, engineering, biochemist engineer. Um, So like, and then my I would not wear a dress. Like for me, dresses, I did not wear any makeup. I hardly wore like maybe small earrings. Like all that had to do with femininity was like not in that sense, because I was very nurturing and like I was always taking care of my siblings. And as we grew up, if we had family reunions, all the little kids, the nephews, I would always be there, playing with the kids. But yeah, my feminine side was totally blocked. So as I started to discover the woman in me and learning about that and forgiving me, and also forgiving the masculine side of me for taking control, or if that makes sense, I don't know. But yeah, the feminine part of me started to come out. So I started wearing dresses. I still don't use a lot of makeup, but I try to make myself, help myself look a little bit better. Be I have now beautiful women friends. I didn't have many girlfriends. Most of my life, I had better communication and worked better with men. And now I can say that I work with beautiful women beside me in the retreats, in the ceremonies. And actually, it's been through women and abuelita, that feminine energy, that I've found myself again, and I reconciliated with myself. Is that the right word?
Reconciled.
Reconciled with myself, and now I am accepting that I am a woman, and I can also allow myself to do women's girl things.
Hmm. Well, you're definitely the person that's responsible for getting everyone to dance.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I hadn't danced in so many years until I arrived to the finca. Yeah, that was something I've forgotten. That it's such a beautiful experience. For me, dancing is my meditation. It's healing. Yeah, I even got you dancing now.
Well, I know the last messages I've got is surrendering to the feminine, which I don't completely know what that means. And then yeah, I never danced my entire life until about a year ago. It was among other reasons and things, but you can be the one that is responsible for that if you want.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know that I helped you loosen up a little bit.
I'd say too, related to the job you had, it feels to me like one of the biggest things that was stressful or difficult or challenging was the fact that you weren't really able to express yourself or be yourself. It was more fitting into this like role or box or yeah, role, and then it broke out of that into beauty, feminine, dancing, dresses, supporting, taking care of people in a way that's more of a supporting rather than an obligation as far as, comparatively to teaching.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's hard to when we're like stuck in that system that we need to do things the right way. It's hard to express. It's and yeah, having this freedom of you know being able to express what I feel, and it's also part of my process, because I now I know that I had my throat chakra blocked also. And well, I think it's been one of the people that can see that change in me. You know how I think I've a lot of, for example, people pleasing. Like now I can say no. I'm not going to do this. I don't like I can now I feel the emotion, and I can respond to that emotion before pleasing, before doing what is supposed to be the right thing. Of course, no, I'm not going to hurt anybody or do anything that's harmful for me or anybody else. But yes, learning to put boundaries and respect myself a little bit every day.
Is there anything else you want to share as far as the things you've learned over these past 4 years?
Um, well, I think something that I want to say is because, and I say this because sometimes we tend to romanticize the awakening and all this.
Hmm.
And I want to say that now life didn't become easier for me.
Yeah.
Life is still happening. Okay, all the changes and all the effort and all the processes that I've put myself through that has not made life easier. I just simply, like I said, learn how to trust it more. Trust that life happens. And I think you mentioned it once in a retreat, and I like that. Mention it. It's happening for me. You
Rather
know,
than to you.
rather than to me. So learn to trust myself within life itself. It's. I think that would be something I would like to say, because like I say, we tend to romanticize and think that things are going to be easier, and then it's like, this is no easier. Well, no, because we need to be awake, we need to be aware, we need to be present, and trust, and well, I guess the greatest gift in me, it wasn't really the healing, it was more the fact that I remembered that I wasn't broken in the first
Hmm.
place, and letting go of all I did, it was useless. No, it was like I wasn't broken. Everything I learned since I was born until the day I decided to quit my job was something I needed to go through so that I can be doing what I'm doing right now, which I love, the way I'm doing it right now. Because I know, like we mentioned earlier, like it comes kind of natural that I am, and it's not, it's true. I'm Cancer, and that's the energy, the nurturing mother of Cancer. But of course, that gave me many tools and a lot of experience and expertise towards how to be in a ceremony now. Prepared me for that, even though at that point I had no idea. But so yeah, that would be trust, trusting myself and realizing that I'm not, that I was good, that I'm good, that I'm not broken.
Thank you for sharing that. I do think also important to mention that as something that, more, I guess the word's equanimity, where everything else continues to happen around you. It's how you respond to it. I think that's something that's still very much a process for myself. But I do think it's wise words to say that, to not like romanticize it. I mean, just for me, I've had these like mind shattering experiences, but I think there's still an element of feeling the feelings behind them. Or another thing you mentioned is you had a issue with just how hard on yourself you were. And I think I definitely experience that on a regular basis, and I still do. And I do think, there's this process that needs to happen outside of medicine. One, I think medicine can make you massively aware of it, but I do really believe that there's a process that you also have to go through of, like you said, catching those thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
rewriting that kind of story or that narrative or that inner dialogue. So I do think it's important and just responsible to mention that that is also part of the process too, as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I say it because yes, well now we work with all these people, and people come out of their ceremonies and their retreats, so joyful, and but then we go back to life, and well, actually for me, like I mentioned that I stayed for 2 years living at the finca, and then I came back home, and,
Yeah.
and I thought, it was like, for me it was very easy to tell people, when you go back home, try to keep in your center, and all these beautiful tools to go back home, which are good and effective, of course, but it's easier to do those things when you live in a finca, separated from daily life, or like this life. And so when I came back home, I had to say that to me continuously, like, okay, so now it's coming back out of that bubble. So that's the challenge. And of course, plant medicine, are the most beautiful tool I have experienced to help me remember, to help me reconnect with love, with divinity, with light. And I had never been in a with therapy before in my life, and I'm not saying that therapy isn't good. I know it, and it's very helpful. But if you want a fast way to see things and help you remember, plant medicine would be definitely
Well,
what I will recommend.
let me interrupt you real quick because what I have done at the end of every podcast is I've asked, if there's anyone that's considering doing this, what would you suggest, or
Oh.
what words would you tell them?
Okay, well, I would say if you have the call, if you have curiosity, like, what could that be? Just having the thought of it and the curiosity, I would say go for it. I would say, like I'm saying, it's the one the for me and specifically the medicine, or the most beautiful and fastest way to be able to go back and to go inside and go back in my life, to relearn, to see what's not working anymore, and to relearn, and to move on. That definitely through medicine. But I would say, if you do not do it because somebody else is telling you to do it, if you don't have that call, or if it doesn't feel good to you, wait until it feels good for you. But yes, definitely, it's been for me. I believe that everybody, at least once, they should have an experience like this, to be able to let go of your control, control of your body, and not that you lose control, but like just to let be able to trust that everything is going to be good, and just go there inside and live and experience and cry and laugh and just feel, just be able to feel. Um, that I highly, highly recommend.
Thank you so much, Krista. It's wonderful to have you on this podcast. I'm happy you're part of my life, and I'm happy you're part of our retreats.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Um, and yeah, well, hope that anybody that would like to come to Mexisoul, uh, I hope this conversation was helpful. And yes, it would be beautiful to have you there at the ceremony.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.